October 16, 1906. A town hall near Berlin. A captain of the Prussian First Guard Regiment walks up the steps with 10 armed soldiers behind him. He carries no official document, no written authority, no proof of command. He doesn't need to. The uniform speaks before the man ever does. It moves ahead of him like a second identity, a silent force that demands obedience without explanation. He arrests the mayor. He confiscates the town treasury. 4,000 marks counted out by trembling clerks who never think to question him. He orders the soldiers to secure the building for 30 minutes. Then, as calmly as he arrived, he boards a train and disappears. The captain's name was Wilhelm Voigt. He was not a captain at all. He was a shoemaker, a bankrupt, 57-year-old ex-convict who had assembled that uniform piece by piece from second-hand shops. Yet 10 armed soldiers obeyed him. A mayor surrendered to him. An entire town bent itself around his command. And the reason it worked is the same reason your boss still has a job today. The first lesson is merciless. People rarely submit to the man, they submit to the symbol. When the police finally captured Voigt 10 days later, Germany did not erupt in outrage. Germany laughed, but it laughed with the nervous discomfort of a society that had just seen its greatest illusion exposed. Even the Kaiser reportedly called him an amiable scoundrel before eventually pardoning him. Voigt became a celebrity, selling signed photographs of himself, wearing the very uniform that deceived an entire state, yet almost no one wanted to confront the real revelation. The soldiers who followed him were genuine soldiers, trained, disciplined, armed professionals. Not one demanded written orders. Not one asked who he really was. Because in their world, the question, "Who are you?" had already been replaced by a far more dangerous question, "What are you wearing?" The uniform did not symbolize authority. The uniform had become authority itself. Behind it stood nothing more than an ordinary man wearing the correct costume. A humble shoemaker had demonstrated that rank. Command, obedience, even the machinery of the state could be manipulated by nothing more than a perfectly assembled appearance. Sit with that realization, because it did not die in 1906. Every institution you have ever trusted still operates on the same invisible principle. The doctor's white coat, the professor's title, the executive whose calendar is packed with meetings, the expert whose voice carries effortless certainty on television. Your entire life you have been conditioned to believe that behind every symbol of authority stands someone who possesses access to a hidden chamber of certainty, a place where doubt never enters and answers are always waiting. But there is no hidden chamber. There is only the costume, and inside it, another human being quietly hoping no one looks too closely. This is not cynicism. It is the unsettling conclusion reached by one of the 20th century's most influential sociologists, a man who concealed his own intentions in order to expose the performance beneath ordinary life. And what he uncovered reaches even deeper than Wilhelm Voigt's deception. Voigt proved that a single individual could manufacture authority simply by wearing its symbols. What comes next reveals something infinitely more disturbing, that nearly everyone is performing the same illusion every single day, participating in a carefully maintained social theater they never consciously agreed to join, a performance they inherited from the moment they entered the world, including you. Before we pull back the next curtain, pause for a moment. If you've been watching Mind Placid for a while, you already know I rarely ask for anything. But what I'm about to say matters. YouTube has demonetized this channel. The advertisers would rather this material never reaches you. That means everything I cannot say here. The raw, unfiltered, uncensored breakdowns, the ideas the algorithm quietly buries, now lives on Patreon. The members-only videos, the audio podcast, the complete written scripts, the frameworks I can reference publicly, but cannot fully teach publicly. For $4.99 a month, less than the cost of a coffee, you gain access to the half of this work YouTube refuses to publish. If these public videos have sharpened your thinking, the private work goes much deeper. The link is waiting in the description. The door is open now. Let's return to the next curtain. In 1949, A young Canadian sociologist named Irving Goffman traveled to Unst, the northernmost inhabited island of Scotland's Shetlands, a wind-beaten landscape of fishermen and crofters where life appeared. Disarmingly simple, he introduced himself as an American student interested in agricultural techniques. It was a lie, and that deception was fitting because he had come there to study a far greater one. For more than a year, Goffman observed the islanders with the patience of a biologist examining an unseen ecosystem. His attention settled on a small local hotel, and more specifically, on a single swinging door that separated the kitchen from the dining room. On one side of that door, refinement came alive. Posture straightened, voices softened, manners became elegant. Every movement was deliberate, every gesture carefully composed for the guests. Yet only inches away behind that door, the performance dissolved. Standards relaxed. Conversations changed. Food was handled differently. The same individuals who moments earlier embodied sophistication became entirely different people. That narrow doorway divided not merely two rooms, but two separate realities. From this quiet observation emerged the presentation of self in everyday life. Published in 1956, carrying one of the most unsettling conclusions in modern sociology: there is no social situation in which human beings are not performing. Goffman describes society as fundamentally dramaturgical. Every interaction unfolds upon a front stage, where appearances are carefully maintained. And behind every front stage lies a backstage, where those appearances are rehearsed, repaired, and protected. A job interview belongs to the front stage, the silent conversation you have with yourself while staring into the bathroom mirror. Moments before that, interview belongs to the backstage. Most people stop their understanding there, believing the insight is merely that everyone performs from time to time. But Goffman's true discovery cuts far deeper, and it is precisely the part history rarely repeats. Goffman's real discovery was not that individuals wear masks. It was that no mask survives alone. Every performance depends upon other people protecting it. A surgeon cannot project absolute confidence by himself. The nurses must perform unwavering trust. The anesthesiologist must perform calm precision. The hospital itself must project perfect institutional order. If even one person steps out of character, if a nurse gasps, if an orderly hesitates, if uncertainty escapes through a single expression, the entire illusion that everything is under control collapses for the patient lying on the table. So everyone protects everyone else's role. Goffman called this a dramaturgical loyalty, the silent agreement among members of the same performance to defend the show. Even when the audience asks questions, they have every right to ask. Especially then. Now think back to every room that ever impressed you. The executive team that appeared completely certain during the all-hands meeting. That certainty was not born in the meeting itself. It was rehearsed beforehand, behind closed doors where panic, disagreement, hesitation, and guesswork quietly lived. Confidence was simply the costume. Every person in that room was helping to hold it together. The leader performed certainty for the team. The team performed confidence in the leader. Privately, both sides wrestled with doubt. Publicly, both sides reassured one another. It was not exactly deception. It was mutual protection. And this is where the illusion reaches into your own life. The reason you often feel like a fraud is painfully simple. Throughout your entire existence, you have been granted unlimited access to only one backstage, your own. You witness every rehearsal, every hesitation, every anxious thought, every moment of uncertainty that precedes your actions. Everyone else, however, you encounter only on their carefully maintained front stage. You compare your backstage to their performance, your kitchen to their dining room. And from that impossible comparison, you conclude that you alone are improvising, while everyone else possesses a script. They do not. There has never been a script. Yet if uncertainty lives behind every performance, a deeper question should now begin pressing against your mind. If nobody truly knows exactly what they are doing, then who ends up leading everyone else? That answer is hidden inside one of the most disturbing discoveries modern psychology has ever produced. In January 1995, a man named MacArthur Wheeler walked into two Pittsburgh banks in broad daylight and robbed them with his face completely uncovered. He smiled directly at the security cameras, never once attempting to hide his identity. When the police arrested him only hours later, he was genuinely shocked. "But I wore the juice," he protested. Wheeler had covered his face with lemon juice, believing that because lemon juice can be used as invisible ink, it would also make him invisible to surveillance cameras. He was not insane. He was not intoxicated. He was simply incapable of recognizing the limits of his own understanding. That bizarre case captured the attention of Cornell psychologist David Dunning, who saw in Wheeler something far more universal than a single criminal's mistake. In 1999, Dunning and his graduate student, Justin Kruger, published the research that would forever change psychology. Across tests measuring logic, grammar, and humor, the participants who performed in the bottom quartile consistently believed they had scored around the 62nd percentile. Their confidence was not slightly inflated, it was catastrophically disconnected from reality. The very abilities required to become skilled at something are the same. Abilities required to recognize your own lack of skill. Without competence, even self-evaluation becomes impossible. Most people have heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, but almost no one follows it to its inevitable conclusion. The truly unsettling question is not what happens inside an individual mind, it is what happens when an entire hierarchy begins, rewarding confidence instead of competence. That answer arrived years later through another series of experiments, and it exposed one of the quietest mechanisms through which power is distributed in every institution. In 2012, Cameron Anderson, at Berkeley's Haas School of Business, asked a question so simple it exposed an uncomfortable truth. What do groups actually do with overconfident people? The answer was as predictable as it was disturbing. They elevate them. Anderson's research revealed that individuals who were objectively wrong yet subjectively certain were consistently judged by others as more competent and, as a result, granted higher social status. The group could not measure competence directly, so it substituted confidence as evidence of competence. The appearance of certainty became more valuable than certainty itself. Now allow that mechanism to unfold inside every hierarchy you have ever entered. Organizations cannot instantly recognize genuine ability, so they reward conviction instead. And the people overflowing with conviction are often the very people least capable of questioning themselves. Meanwhile, those who truly understand complexity, those who recognize the hidden variables, the unseen risks, the countless ways a situation can unravel, hesitate. They qualify their statements, they ask questions, they acknowledge uncertainty. In 1978, psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes documented this paradox while studying roughly 150 high-achieving women. The more accomplished the individual, the more likely she was to privately believe that her success was undeserved and that exposure was only a matter of time. They called it the M-imposter phenomenon. Place these two discoveries side by side, and an unsettling inversion emerges. Doubt gathers where competence exists. Certainty gathers where ignorance survives. Yet the very system responsible for selecting leaders rewards certainty above all else. The confidently mistaken rise. The quietly capable remain beneath them, questioning themselves. If that sounds like an abstract psychological curiosity, history offers a far more brutal demonstration, one that unfolded on a fog-covered runway, where unquestioned authority and misplaced confidence combined to produce one of the deadliest disasters modern aviation has ever witnessed, if you believe this inversion exists only in laboratories and psychological papers. History offers a far more devastating demonstration. March 27, 1977, a fog-covered runway on the Canary Islands. At the controls of a fully loaded KLM 747 sat the airline's most respected pilot, its chief flight instructor, the very face of Dutch aviation excellence, the man whose image appeared in the company's own advertisements as the embodiment of experience and authority. After hours of delay, impatience overcame caution. He began the takeoff roll without receiving clearance. Beside him, the flight engineer, his voice tense with uncertainty, quietly asked, "Is he not clear, that Pan American?" A Pan Am 747 was still somewhere on the same runway, completely hidden by the dense fog. The captain responded with complete confidence. "Oh yes." The engineer fell silent, sitting beside the most authoritative man in the company. He surrendered his doubt to the weight of rank. 13 seconds later, 583 people were dead. It remains the deadliest accident in the history of aviation. Yet the most haunting detail came only afterward. When news of the catastrophe reached KLM headquarters, executives reportedly attempted to contact that very captain so he could lead the investigation into what had happened. They did not yet know that the man they believed to be their greatest authority was already among the wreckage. The system's own definition of competence had become the disaster itself. Meanwhile, the individual who sensed the danger, the doubting engineer, allowed his uncertainty to remain unspoken, because doubt had learned to bow before certainty wrapped in status. That is the confidence inversion operating at its highest cost. But even now, one comforting belief probably remains inside you. You may still assume that while individuals can be deceived, institutions themselves eventually separate appearance from reality. That somewhere within the system, truth always prevails over performance. History is about to remove even that final refuge. In 1973, the journal Science published a paper that shook the foundations of modern psychiatry. A Stanford professor named David Rosenhan-Fuse reported that he and 7 other perfectly healthy volunteers entered psychiatric hospitals claiming to hear a single voice repeating only 3 words: empty, hollow, thud. Beyond that brief description, they behaved completely normally. From the moment they were admitted, nothing about their conduct suggested mental illness, yet not a single hospital recognized them as sane. They remained confined for an average of 19 days. Nearly all were diagnosed with schizophrenia and eventually released not as healthy individuals, but as schizophrenia in remission, meaning the institutions never concluded they had been well, only that the illness had temporarily retreated from view. Ordinary behavior was reinterpreted as evidence of pathology. One pseudo-patient's simple habit of taking notes was officially recorded as patient engages in writing behavior. But perhaps the most unsettling observation came from the real patients themselves. Many quietly approached the volunteers and said, "You're not crazy. You're a journalist. So you're checking up on the hospital." Those whom society labeled mentally ill recognized reality more accurately than the trained professionals entrusted to define it. When one hospital confidently insisted it could never be deceived in the same way, Rosenhan announced that he would send additional pseudo-patients over the following months. Determined to prove its superiority, the hospital proudly identified 41 suspected imposters among 193 admissions. Rosenhan had sent no one. The institution had begun detecting performances that did not even exist. The study became one of the most influential papers in the history of psychology. It accelerated the deinstitutionalization movement, reshaped psychiatric practice, and contributed to the rewriting of diagnostic standards across the field. It appeared to prove that even institutions built upon expertise could no longer distinguish appearance from reality. Yet the deepest twist was still waiting beneath the surface. Yet almost no one knows what happened decades later. In 2019, journalist Susanna Cahalan spent years investigating Rosenhan's famous experiment while writing The Great Pretender. What she uncovered transformed one of psychology's greatest triumphs into another unsettling lesson about performance itself. She obtained Rosenhan's personal records and discovered that parts of his own medical history contradicted the version he had publicly reported. She located one of the original participants whose experience inside the hospital had actually been positive, an account that had quietly disappeared from Rosenhan's published data. As for the remaining 6 pseudo-patients, despite years of investigation, she found no convincing evidence that most of them had ever existed at all. Pause for a moment and allow the irony to settle. A study that claimed institutions could not distinguish appearance from reality may itself have relied, at least in significant part, on an appearance that reality could not fully support. Even more astonishing, the institutions of science failed to recognize it. The paper survived peer review. It was cited thousands of times. It influenced hospitals, reshaped laws, transformed psychiatric practice, and altered countless lives. For nearly half a century, a performance about the dangers of performance successfully, performed as unquestioned truth. If that realization feels almost impossible to process, one philosopher spent his entire career explaining why such paradoxes are no longer exceptions but the operating principle of modern society itself. Once you understand his framework, you will begin seeing it everywhere: in your salary, in your news feed, in corporate hierarchies, and even in the title printed on your boss's office door. The next curtain does not simply question authority. It questions whether the original behind the authority ever existed at all. In 1981, the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard opened Simulacra and Simulation with a strange fable borrowed from Borges. It tells of an empire whose cartographers became so obsessed with perfect accuracy that they created a map exactly the size of the empire itself, covering the territory point for point until the map and the land became indistinguishable. In the story, the map eventually decays, rotting away over the landscape it was meant to describe. But Baudrillard argued that modern society had already reversed the fable. The map no longer follows reality. The map comes first, and reality is quietly rebuilt to resemble it. He described the life of every symbol as passing through stages. First, a sign reflects something real. Then it begins to distort that reality. Eventually, it conceals the absence of the original altogether. And finally, it becomes a simulacrum, a copy with no original remaining anywhere, a symbol referring only to other symbols. It sounds abstract until you watch it unfold inside your own life. A man becomes a manager despite never having managed anyone before. So he performs the role of a manager. Where does that performance come from? From the manager who once supervised him. And where did that manager learn it? From another manager before him. Somewhere further back, perhaps from business books, corporate seminars, films, consultants, or executives who were themselves imitating earlier performances. At every stage, you assume there must have been an original, the first genuine manager who truly understood what leadership looked like. Search for him, he is nowhere to be found. What survives is only imitation repeating imitation, costumes copying costumes, performances borrowing from performances until the performance itself becomes the reality everyone accepts. Wilhelm Voigt's stolen uniform commanded real soldiers, yet the officers those soldiers normally obeyed were also serving the same uniform, only their own. The costume had outlived the man inside it. Hers, the diploma signals knowledge the graduate may have forgotten by August. The corporation adopts Hua's best practices, copied from another company, which copied them from another company, which originally invented them as marketing. Job postings demand 5 years of experience performing a role that often consists of nothing more than performing experience itself. Confidence on LinkedIn points toward confidence on LinkedIn. Authority, Baudrillard understood, is not a substance some people possess while others lack. It is a circulation of symbols that everyone has collectively agreed to keep passing from one hand to another. Like a currency no one dares redeem because redeeming it would expose the vault as empty. And here lies the deepest cut. It does not matter that the vault is empty, as long as no one behaves as if they know it. The entire simulation continues functioning through collective participation. Reality no longer sustains the illusion. The illusion sustains reality, which leaves only one final question. If the vault is empty, and somewhere inside almost everyone quietly suspects that it is, why does the performance never end? Why does no one step forward and speak the obvious truth? Because the performance does not survive in spite of you. It survives because of you. In 1993, Princeton psychologists Deborah Prentice and Dale Miller surveyed students about the heavy drinking culture at their university. Privately, most students admitted they were uncomfortable with it. Yet when asked what everyone else believed, those very same students answered that the others enjoyed it. and fully accepted it. Believing they alone disagreed, each individual continued, drinking in order to fit into a majority that did not actually exist. Prentice and Miller called this a pluralistic ignorance condition in which every individual privately rejects the norm while publicly reinforcing it because each person believes they are the only dissenter. Now replace drinking with certainty. You remain silent during the meeting because everyone else appears to understand. The person sitting beside you is equally confused and remains silent for exactly the same reason. From your perspective, they look confident. From their perspective, you look confident. The leader, standing at the front, mistakes the room's silence for understanding and grows increasingly convinced that the plan makes perfect sense, even while privately wrestling with doubts of their own. Every individual becomes, at the same moment, both the deceived audience and the actor, helping sustain the deception. The performance of knowing survives because everyone quietly agrees to protect it. That silence you swallowed in last week's meeting, remember it. Remember the question that rose into your mind before you buried it. You convinced yourself it was probably a stupid question. It wasn't. It was the very question, almost. Everyone else in the room was silently asking. This is the moment where they disappears. There is no hidden cabal of pretenders maintaining the illusion against you. The illusion is crowdsourced. Every time you nodded while confused, every time you deferred despite your doubts, every time you wrapped uncertainty inside borrowed confidence, every time you waited for someone more qualified to move first, you added another brick to the very wall that has intimidated you your entire life. The soldiers obeyed Wilhelm Voigt, but over the years you have played both roles. Some days you have been the obedient soldier. Other days, without realizing it, you have been the uniform others quietly followed. Nobody truly knows exactly what they are doing. Yet everyone, including you, is rewarded with belonging as long as the performance continues. The final curtain. So what happens when this realization finally settles inside you? Not as another comforting quote, but as a structural truth about every room you will ever enter. You do not become arrogant. Arrogance is merely another costume worn by the deluded. Instead, you do something far colder. You recalibrate the price of permission. Your entire life you have waited to feel ready. You have waited to feel qualified. You have imagined that the people who build companies, raise capital, publish books, lead institutions, or walk confidently into positions of power must experience some inner certainty you have never possessed. Now you know what they actually feel. Nothing fundamentally different from you. The only difference is movement. They acted while carrying the very uncertainty you believed disqualified you. The feeling of readiness you have been waiting for is not delayed. It does not exist. It has never existed. Readiness is a simulacrum, the copy of a feeling no human being has ever truly possessed, which means your doubt is not evidence that you are unqualified. Statistically, it is one of the strongest indicators that you are paying attention. The deluded rarely experience it. The flight engineer felt it. His mistake was not that he doubted, it was that he granted greater respect to a costume than to his own perception. Competence is real, but it is rarely born from certainty. It is built through motion, by individuals who continue acting long before confidence arrives, and it almost never resides where certainty speaks the loudest. From this day forward, whenever a voice of authority begins to influence your thinking, pause long enough to ask yourself one quiet question. Am I obeying a person, or am I obeying a uniform? And then ask the more difficult question, the one that should follow you into every meeting, every institution, every conversation, and every room you enter for the rest of your life. How many people, at this very moment, are obeying yours? One final thing before you leave. YouTube has demonetized this channel. They would rather these ideas remain unspoken. Instead of softening the message to satisfy advertisers, I chose the opposite path. Everything I cannot publish here now lives on Patreon. The deeper analyses, the audio podcast, the complete written scripts, and the work that is simply too sharp for YouTube. For $4.99 a month, you gain access to everything this platform refuses to carry. The link is waiting in the description, and it's pinned in the comments as well. Most people will close this video, return to their routines, and slip back into the comfort of the performance. To don't be one of them. The door is open. The choice, as it always has been, is yours.